So we have Webpack running. It knows how to work with JSX. We're able to require React and React DOM. The last thing to do is get rid of this clunky file, and that's been the goal the whole time. But I wanted to make sure to move at a pace so you understood what exactly was happening and what roles Webpack was playing. So to start removing everything from app.jsx, the first step is going to be to add 2 more files to the components folder. We already have one for Greeter. I'm going to make one inside of components for Greeter message.jsx. And I'm going to make a third one called Greeter form.jsx. And I'm going to rename Greeter to have a JSX extension instead of a regular JavaScript extension. Now with this in place, I'm also going to go ahead and delete our app.js file that we created earlier. This was just for the dummy example and it's no longer useful. We can actually do this one at a time. We don't have to get too crazy with it. So to get started, let's just go ahead and pull Greeter message out of here. To kick things off, I'm going to cut it and paste it right inside of Greeter message.jsx. And when you make a new module like this, defining your React component is step 1, but there is 2 other things you have to do. First up, we need to require React at the very top of our file. I'm going to make a new variable, call it React, and set it equal to require React. Awesome. And the second thing we have to do is export the Greeter message component. Right now, someone could require this file, but since we don't set anything on module.exports, they're not going to get any information back. In this case, the information we want to give them is stored in the Greeter message variable. So down below at the very bottom of the file, I'm going to set module.exports equal to Greeter message. You can think of module.exports kind of like the return statement inside of a function. When you call a function, whatever gets returned is the result you get. When you require a file, whatever gets set to module.exports is what you get back. And now that we have our Greeter message component, we can save the file. In app.jsx, at the very top, we can create a new variable, call it Greeter message, and set it equal to require. And in this case, we have to specify the path, which is going to start with .components/Greeter message. And we're able to leave off the JSX extension because in Webpack config, we specified the extensions we want to support. Now I can go ahead and put a semicolon at the end, save my file. From the terminal, I'm going to run Webpack. Everything seemed to have worked. I'm going to run my server with node server. Then, down below, I'm going to open up my browser and go to localhost 3000. From here, you can see the application still works. Our Greeter message component shows to the screen. And if I go ahead and change the message, does this work? And click submit, you can see it does indeed still work. So the process of pulling out a component really isn't that bad. Now your goal and the challenge for this video is to pull out the Greeter form component into the Greeter form file we just created. You just have to follow the same steps we went through for Greeter message. Make sure that you can refresh the browser after running Webpack, and you should still see your working app. You don't have to worry about pulling out the Greeter component for now. We'll do that together after the challenge. So take a moment to pause the video, pull Greeter form out into its own file, and when you're done and you've tested, go ahead and click play. The first thing you want to do is cut and paste everything we have right here. I'm going to highlight the entire Greeter form component, cut it out of the file, open up the Greeter form.jsx file and paste everything in. And remember, there is still a few things we have to do after we paste. At the very top, we have to require React. I'm going to create a variable called React, use the require keyword to load in the React module. And the last thing we have to do is export the greeter form variable. So at the very bottom of the file, I'm going to set module.exports equal to greeter form. Awesome. Now I can save this file and load it in at the very top of app.jsx, greeter form equals require, and we have to use this same path. So to do that, it's ./components/greeter. This time, instead of greeter message, we're going to use greeter form. And that's all it takes. So to test this, what you should have done is opened up the terminal, rerun Webpack, then restart the server. And if I head into my browser and refresh it, you can see the form still shows, and typing a new name still works. 2 components have been successfully moved out. It's time to move on to the third and final one. And this one is a little different. It's going to be mostly the same. We can start the same way by taking greeter, cutting it out, and pasting it into the greeter.jsx file. And remember, we have some dummy code in here now. You can go ahead and delete that, paste in the greeter component, and now we can go ahead and require React up at the top, using the same statement we've used many times already. And at the bottom, we're going to export the greeter variable by setting module.exports equal to greeter with a capital G. Now at this point, we're not quite done because we use the greeter message component and the greeter form component in this file, but we've required them in app.jsx, and they're not actually used in here. So what we're going to do is cut and paste these 2 lines inside of greeter.jsx up at the very top below where we load in React. And since these paths are relative, we need to update the path. The greeter.jsx file is already inside of the components folder, so there's no need to specify that anymore. We can simply use ./ followed by the file name. Just like that. And with greeter.jsx all done, the last and final step is to require it inside of app.jsx so we can start up the app with React DOM.render. I'm going to create a new variable and call it greeter, setting it equal to require ./components/greeter. Awesome. Now inside of the terminal, I can go ahead and shut down my Node server and run Webpack. It's going to go ahead and rebundle everything. I can fire up the server using node server.js. In the browser, I'm going to refresh. And here we go. Our app is still working just as expected. I'm going to type in a name and a message just to make sure. And it looks like all the components are working, even though they've all been moved into separate files. So by doing this, we've created an application that's a little more scalable, and we've created components that are more reusable because they each come in their own file, and we can require them and use them. Now, right now, we only use our components once per component. But in future projects, as we grow and scale our apps, we're going to be using the same component multiple times, and the benefits of having separate files are going to be very clear. They'll also become a little more clear when we start testing our components, which we will be doing in this course. For now, though, everything is working as expected. In the next video, we're going to touch on one last Webpack feature. It's going to let us remove the annoying paths we have to type in order to require our components. It would be much more useful if we could simply type greeter just like that. But for now, we have to leave the components on, and that is it. I'll see you next time.